ready for another lesson?
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Back Row Banter, your favorite casual movie talk podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Adam Schwartz, and on this week's episode, we'll be talking about the movie The Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim. But of course, before any of that, I am joined today by humble brag master's degree guy himself, Nathaniel Gingrich.
That's me, one of a kind and original, humble brag master's degree guy.
Had to go back to the classic today because we're
It's late and we're tired.
It's late, we're tired, and we don't have time for names. No tomfoolery here on this late night app. Of course, also joining us today is Tyler Vidalis El Trabajo 87 gaming over there on Marvel Rivals. Catch him live on Twitch. Ty, you gonna?
I'm actually not streaming.
Are you think you're gonna go back soon now that you have Marvel Rivals to play? And you're
honestly, I don't know. It's been like a pretty wild road. I don't know, like, so part of me is like, what's the point? Like, it didn't happen the first time, so like, but also, things are just better when you play games that you enjoy. So who knows?
Yeah, exactly. And rounding out the squadron today, of course, is big dumb Mike BlakeHolder.
That's very fitting, brother. Very fitting.
It is, of course, because this late night episode is brought to you by some technical difficulties.
You got a technical foul.
It's a great time trying to record remotely when technology doesn't want to cooperate. But we're here nonetheless. Glad to have you here, gentlemen. And glad to have you here, dear listener. Not gonna be a shorter ep today because, like I said, it's pretty late. But we wanted to get this episode up for you guys this week, and keep kind of on schedule. So yeah, it's gonna just get right into the review here. Nathaniel, if listener here is new, or maybe they've just forgotten, can you give them a rundown of how the review segment works?
What up, folks? If you're new or perhaps you've forgotten, the way the review segment works here on Back Row Banter is that it is split into two sections. There's the non-spoiler segment, then there's the spoiler segment. It's pretty self-explanatory. In the non-spoiler segment, we'll go over the IMDb page, who wrote it, who directed it, who's in it, all that good stuff. Then we'll go around the squadron, got to decide yes or no. There is no nuance on the internet whether we would recommend this movie. And then it'll be spoiler time. If you don't have anything spoiled for you, check out. But check back in to see where we rank it up on our Entropy list, which is a big list of everything we've watched on the podcast ranked. With that being said, Adam, tell me about Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim.
I would love to. This is a new movie. It came out just last year, in the year 2024. It's rated PG-13 with a runtime of 2 hours and 14 minutes and an IMDb rating of 6.4 out of 10. It is directed by Kenji Kamiyama, with writing credits going to Jeffrey Addis, Will Matthews, Phoebe Gittins, Artie Papagiorgio. And of course, it is based on a story by J.R.R. Tolkien. The cast includes Brian Cox, Gaia Weiss, Miranda Otto, Lucas Pasqualino, Lorraine Ashbourne, Sean Dooley, and Benjamin Wainwright. I think I'll stop there. There's a lot of people here. Part of this cast, I don't recognize too many of these names. Does anyone else? Christopher Lee here, a bit of a
there's a cameo from Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan. And
we got
that's
some classics. That's pretty much it. The IMDb summary reads as follows: a sudden attack by Wolf, a clever and traitorous lord of Rohan, seeking revenge for the death of his father, forces Helm Hammerhand, the king of Rohan, and his people to make a daring last stand in the ancient stronghold of the Hornburg. I'm sure Tyler understands all of that.
It's pretty straightforward if you kind of know.
It is.
No, you know, it is. If you know, you know.
And if you don't know,
hopefully you know
out
after this.
Yeah. animated Lord of the Rings. I had no idea this was coming out until I saw a poster in the AMC lobby, and I
Sure.
was like, "That looks interesting." Obviously, we've had quite a few. I don't know, wouldn't necessarily call them evolutions in animation, but a lot of animated movies kind of breaking the norms a little bit. You have Spider-Verse kind of starting out, blending a bunch of different art styles all into one movie. Then you have something like Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem comes to mind. Just a few different kind of different approaches to animation and mixing art styles and whatnot, and seeing what we can do with animation. I've been loving a lot of these, and I've been loving the direction that this kind of animation's heading in. Now that's kind of what I was expecting. This is still along those same lines of like pushing a little bit of like what kind of art styles we can mix together, and but this time it's more of like a Japanese anime kind of art style and animation blended with, I don't even know what would you call those backgrounds. I mean, they're not photorealistic, but they are a little bit more more typically animated.
Yeah, they give
Um,
you a very cool. I mean, the whole thing really kind of gives you a very cool hand
yeah,
drawn kind of feel.
yeah, exactly.
Which is really cool. But yeah,
Right.
the style is very unique. It's not something that we've really seen a ton of, but that's one of the big wins for me in my book.
Yeah. I think this movie looks really good. And I'm gonna kick it right over to Ty, of course, our Lord of the Rings. What was the word that you wanted used in the group chat earlier? Connoisseur.
Yeah, yeah, I'll have
All
that.
right.
I'll take
What's
that.
What is
What's he saying?
our Lord of the
National
Rings?
treasure. What's one step below obsessed? Passionate. He's a passionate connoisseur.
All right, our passionate connoisseur of Lord of the Rings, Tyler Vidalis. What are we thinking here, man?
I actually had a really good time with this. This was a couple of weeks ago that I had seen this now. Just because life happens and different movies come out in different places, and our schedule is different from what we think week to week sometimes. So, um, I actually ended up seeing this. I was gonna see this regardless. But it was a good time, man. I originally, this was the weekend of your birthday, right, Nathaniel?
It was, yeah. I think it came out on my birthday, if I'm not mistaken.
And I had asked a bunch of people to come. I had like 5 or
Yeah.
6 people that were supposed to come, and then everybody ended up bailing. And
No.
yeah, with the exception of Foley, resident
Oh,
resident
shout out
number
Ryan
1
Foley.
fan. So
I knew he'd be there.
yeah,
I would have been there. I wanted to be. I had already had a work conflict that night, unfortunately.
yeah. No, I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
it's all good. At least I got to
Yeah.
see it with somebody who also enjoys Lord of the Rings. So
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I had a ton of fun with it. Like I stated, the animation style is really unique. It's not something that we've really seen. It does kind of give you a little tilt to the hat to the older stuff, which is very cool. Um it really is kind of cinematic in a sense that they're able to kind of, the way it looks, the reason it looks a little weird is because it's trying to mimic kind of like a cinematic feel. Your landscapes tend to stay quite stationary, and they move the camera around the animation, so it kind of gives it a 3D but 2D style, kind of all at the same time. And that's kind of why it looks very weird, because it doesn't necessarily, the hand drawn stuff doesn't necessarily, you don't think it should have kind of like a 3D form to it, but they do a really good job at kind of doing all that. So, um, I thought it was very unique. Score, still top notch. It's a Lord of the Rings film. They are not gonna skip out on stuff like that, and they do pay attention to detail. And then you do get some uh some classic voices in there from just other people being in there, but then you also get they have like Peter Jackson involved.
So you did say this. What but I don't see him popping up here on any IMDb
I
credits. Do
think
you
it was
know
more of
what
like
his level of involvement was?
I think it was more of like an advisement, like
Uh,
this is just where I think
and
you guys should go.
one of them, Philip O'Boy or Fran Walsh. One of them is married to Peter Jackson as well too. I can't remember which one. Sorry.
Gotcha.
But like it's their crew.
Yeah. And then they also have Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan in this, and they're singing at one point one of the songs. It came up, and I was like, "Hey, yo!" So, and then there's Shank and Rote.
The orcs.
So yeah, so that is very cool to kind of see. But overall, I had a really good time. Viewing experience was a lot of fun. Obviously, this isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea. I know that there's been plenty of mixed reviews from people that are passionate about Lord of the Rings, and also people that are just kind of passionate about animation. And so it's kind of hit or miss for some people. I like it. I'm a recommend. But yeah, Blake, I'm very interested to see what you thought.
Yeah, so this is one I went into with like relatively low expectations, and I actually have a crazy story on how I went in to see this. You guys know I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings guy. But I was Christmas shopping in Halo Christmas shopping. We were trying to leave the outlet mall in Rosemont, if any of you all have ever been there.
Yeah.
I have.
And then the parking garage is just a pain in the ass to get out. This is like the day before Christmas Eve. So it's the
Ugh.
23rd.
That's why I avoid Rosemont at all costs.
Oh my God, horrible. And like we were waiting to get out of the parking garage for like an hour, and we moved maybe
Jeez.
like half a level down. And then I was
Oh,
like, okay,
no.
so we can just park and walk to the AMC down the street and watch a movie. So we did it, and this is the movie we watched. So, so that's the kind of the
Hilarious.
story of that. But yeah,
That's
all in all,
awesome.
actually, I really liked this. Granted, I went in kind of like not expecting much. Like I don't know any of the lore behind Lord of the Rings. I've only seen the first 3 films, and
For
that's
sure.
as much as time Nathaniel and Adam have talked about here on pod. But I honestly liked it. The story was it's okay. It's serviceable for me, right? But I actually really like the blend of like the 3D and the 2D animation. It's like I was hooked, dude. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not gonna say it's like my favorite Lord of the Rings film, right? Objectively, I just can't say that. But this is one I think I would probably watch before I watch the others. And that's probably a crazy statement to say
Let's
out loud.
go.
Really? Wow.
Do you think it's the animation that has a lot more to do with that? Because obviously, like the storylines are pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, the storylines too. I mean, maybe you just don't want something that's like super dense, like Lord of the Rings, and have to carry it over from thing to thing. Maybe it's just easier to watch something that's kind of a one-off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that plays a role to Ty's point. I also think with me not being a huge fantasy guy in general, it's easier for me to suspend my disbelief on an animated
Sure.
canvas, right? For like a fantasy type of film.
Yeah. No.
So
Absolutely.
I think that's what it is, man. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed this.
Good. I'm happy.
That's awesome. I am not shocked that you enjoyed this. I'm a little surprised that you'd prefer this over Lord of the Rings, but when you put it like that, that makes sense. I can understand that. Nathaniel?
Yeah, I saw this earlier this week, so I think I'm pretty recent on
I
on this one.
also did see this pretty recent too.
I had a whole
2 days
theater to
ago.
myself, which was pretty cool.
I
That
did
is
not have
cool.
that. I was
The funny
surprised
part
actually.
is the whole group chat like confused me so much because I originally thought it was Adam who had sent that, and then you had sent like, "Oh, I'm going to see it tomorrow," or like Adam said, "I'm
Oh,
going to
like
see it
it was
and I'm like,
reversed.
"Wait, wasn't that you that just took the fuck?" I'm like, dude, where am I right now?
Was it a Snapchat?
Oh yeah, that's right. I
Something.
did send it on Snapchat.
I think you said you sent the
Yeah.
Snapchat of the screen.
Maybe
saying
that's
you had
why I
to
was so
open it.
confused because once I tried to go back and like look at it in the group me, I was like, "So who the
Yeah.
fuck sent that?" I'm like, "This is dumb." I'm like, "I don't know, dude."
I'm so confused. No, so yeah, that was ideal. It was great. It was funny. I got to like sit in the theater and test the best sound spots for where things
Oh,
were.
really?
Hilarious.
Yeah.
That's kind of awesome.
So
I've
yeah.
never thought to do that.
Did you like sit somewhere like 20 minutes and then move, or
No,
did
it
you
was
just like
it was
move
first
really
like
quick
2
between
minutes.
things?
Yeah, it was the first. It was like that first
Got
scene
it.
basically where I was like,
Where's
oh, like this feels like
where's
it's
premium?
like well, it was a small theater, so in one of those ones that like we saw for like my birthday, it's middle.
Sure.
Mhm.
Like it's tuned 100% for middle. If you sit higher, the highs
That's
feel like
where
they're
I
hitting
saw
you
it.
in the chest. If you're sitting low, like they'll be like too far back behind you. It's 100% tuned for
Got it.
middle.
Nice.
Middle is where I saw this movie.
Yeah, so coincidentally, so did I.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was. I had a good time with this. I think that to Blake's point, I think there's less source material for this surely than like the other Lord of the Rings movies, so like it sort of feels broader, and I almost think he had kind of like the ideal circumstances where you just like quite literally are kind of just dropping in, like you almost just basically woke up in the movie theater and were like, hey,
Right.
should I see this or not? Like, you had nothing to lose basically, and that's pretty awesome. But yeah, no, I had a good time with this overall. I didn't I grew to get more comfortable with the animation style. I do think I have a criticism that it was not the most expressive for facial expressions. And when
Sure.
I'd agree.
and that I found that didn't always line up with the voice acting, like line reading and performance, particularly with Brian Cox, who is very emotive and very, if you think of him on Succession or something, he's got that great interesting face. You like to see him speak. And I felt like sometimes that like didn't always match the animation. However, I gotta first point out the elephants have never been scarier and more cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
for sure.
Oh, for sure.
that is
yeah.
highlight for me for sure within so I liked I wish they went more stylized, I feel like, because this like in comparison to obviously the Amazon Lord of the Rings, like as soon as you're in this world, you're like, oh, I'm in the Peter Jackson averse again,
For
like
sure.
it does feel that way. You get all of the characteristics, but like you are 100% like visually between the two films, you 100% know it. I wish they had kept the backgrounds like that, but gone a little bit more expressive and maybe even more a little bit anime-ish with the kind of stylization and some of the designs. But overall, had a good time with it. Felt like it did feel like a legend of the Lord of the Rings verse kind of thing. It's not definitely not as intricate or personable as like I think the core three are. Obviously, I'm thinking of like
Sure.
the relationship between the hobbits and like particularly Frodo and Sam and that kind of stuff, where you get that kind of long drawn out friendship and complicated relationship as well too. But they don't have 3 movies to work with either. So
Right.
I liked our lead character. Thought she was great. I liked the overall design. I liked that it was a human's story. That was pretty cool. Like for the most part, you don't really get too many
Yeah.
of the other races in there overall. And it really does kind of like flesh out some of those, like what are background characters in the Lord of the Rings core trilogy, and in the kind of like men that are also in the world but are not from either Rohan or Gondor. So yeah, I had a good time overall. Definitely not gonna be the one I probably watch next again. But
That's fair. I knew I'd be the only person that would have
but that's I'm a much bigger Lord of the Rings fan than Blake is overall. But I can 100% see where he's coming from and enjoy it as well. But yeah, Adam, I'll kick it to you.
Yeah. I would say I enjoyed my time. I think this movie is good. I don't think it's great. And I would and definitely would prefer to watch the you know original three movies over this one if I was forced to pick. But I do still think this movie's good.
Would
And I
you
did
rather
have a good
watch The
time.
Hobbits?
Maybe not. This is maybe closer in quality.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah,
I
that is a
know.
good
I'm
question.
good at this sometimes.
Man, all these episodes be locks in only for Lord of the Rings. Ah, all right.
I
Hey, I
do.
was locked for Furiosa. It's just
You were,
Nathaniel
Yeah,
and I
you
were the
were.
only ones that saw it for the first 3 months. So
I was like, yeah, we did it
It's
4 months later.
It's still a fucking tragedy, man.
That movie is still awesome. Though.
I do
I know this is Lord of
deeply,
the Rings app, but that movie fucking rules.
I do deeply regret not seeing that movie in IMAX in theaters.
it was so good,
Yeah,
dude.
dude, fucking
But
rips.
we're not
Anyway.
here to talk about Furiosa.
and that's
but
beautiful. Sit it out.
80s and yeah, that. All right, I can't.
All right, stop now. But I like the animation. It's insane from the opening. Because again, I went in like not knowing what this was. So I sit down and I was expecting some kind of like off the wall ish animation, similar again to like another iteration of TMNT or like a Spider Verse, like something
For
I
sure.
maybe haven't just seen before exactly. I had no idea it was gonna be anime style. So the second that I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm on board. Oh boy, am I on board. Like really from the opening, little cold open thing that they have, I was like, this animation has me locked in pretty much. But the rest of the time, I don't know. I was pacing the movie just felt very like jerky, like stop and go. Like there was the times that it picks up, I really was engaged. I really, really, really liked what I was watching. But the in betweens, it just everything was so drawn out, and it just felt like there was a decent amount of filler here. And I correct me if I'm wrong, Ty, and I don't know the exact number behind it, but I've heard this is only like 2 or 3 pages in a book that they tried to expand into this movie. It's not.
Yeah,
There's not
it's
much.
it's really not a long story, so it was
Yeah.
definitely something that they had to put a lot of effort in to make sure it was fleshed out enough for a movie.
Right. And I think you kind of feel the effects of that a little bit. But overall, again, I had a good time. I would say probably recommend, especially if you're a Lord of the Rings fan. You've probably already seen this if you are, but even if you're borderline, I think this is especially going to be good when it comes to streaming. If you just want to throw it on at some point, I think it's very much worth a watch. But it's not one that I'm like, you desperately need to go see this. It's yeah.
Yeah, I
Not one of
think
those
if you're
movies
a
for me.
Lord of the Rings fan, you're probably gonna be drawn more to this than you would be Rings of Power. Not that Rings of Power is bad or anything that I thoroughly enjoy that show still, even though it gets quite a bit of hate on the interwebs. But yeah, I think more of the lore driven people of Lord of the Rings will probably be more on this page versus like the Rings of Power.
You know what it reminds me of is the Animatrix.
Oh,
Ooh,
okay.
I've not seen that.
Interesting.
in a weird way. And
Yeah,
I
for
kind of
sure.
want like more of them. Like I would like a Star Wars Visions, like a Lord of the Rings Visions, where they give it to like different animation studios, but set it in the.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool. I mean, I've sent you guys a couple of those different things where they have different TV shows or movies that you're are part of you, and then you see them in a different anime style or different animation style or something like that of another part of something that is you, and they do a mashup, and you're like, dude, this is sick. Like I've seen like the Lord of the Rings Studio Ghibli stuff, like it looks
Mhm.
phenomenal. Like obviously that's just like concept art, and it probably is AI driven, which is unfortunate, but it looks so good. And I'm like, dude, that would be like a mashup, like a dream matchup for Lord of the Rings for me. Especially when you think to like the old animated shows like The Hobbit, like The Lord of the Rings, like
Sure.
those were all old cartoons, and there's some of like the first generations of cartoons where like the silhouette in the background is actually somebody just running behind like a sheet with like backlighting on it,
Yeah.
and it just illuminates, and it's supposed to represent, like a watermarked image or something like that. And so like it's some of like the first generations of like cartoons and animation and like where they wanted to go with that kind of stuff. So it would be really cool to see a lot more people do that. The only thing I wouldn't want is for it to get like completely washed out and it end up being like this genre that is oversaturated, and then I end up hating because, the world just got their grimy little fingers on it.
Yeah. Try to make too much money off it.
Right.
Cough, Squid Game, cough.
There's a cough for you.
I think the Squid Game Domino's ads are so ironic. Capitalism has no irony, but anyway.
Are we ready for spoilers? Real
Go.
quick. Spoiler
Yeah, I
time.
think so. Spoiler time. We're gonna go ahead.
Oh yeah, we're all
And
recommends.
spoilers
Right?
if you've not seen the movie. Yeah, we're all recommends. If you've not seen this movie, go ahead, check the episode description where I've left a timestamp you can jump to, where you've been taking the ranking of the movie up upon our HP list. Spoiler time, Nathaniel.
Shit goes down.
Shit. goes
So-
People
down.
die, dude. Wolf's
So-
dad gets
what?
fucking one
Bro,
punch.
Okay,
Yo,
are we
one
talking
tap,
about
dog.
this?
And like I said, guys, that's what I was like. I'm kind of into this.
I figured. Yeah, I was
Wait,
definitely
really
locked
quick,
in
Blake.
after
What
that
did
point.
What did Haley think?
Oh, she didn't like the movie at all.
Yeah,
Okay, I was.
I can guess that. That's like a typical
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
female reaction. I couldn't
I
get
just
my
wanted-
like
I was
if
just
I
curious.
put Lord of the Rings on, my wife is like, "Oh, cool, it's nap time."
Right. For
That would be my girlfriend's reaction.
For
as well.
sure.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Me too.
Some things were just
Excellent.
meant to be mine.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
with that whole thing. Yeah, let's go fight outside. It'll be great. And then just clocks.
Dude,
him.
it was so good, dude. He's like just inside, and then like his niece or whoever it was, I can't remember, or maybe it was the main character, where she was like, "Kings don't act like this," and then he's like, "You're right. Let's go outside."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh fuck!" I'm like, "This dude balls." So, and then like he's like coming
Okay,
at it,
and
and then
then
like
he-
next thing you know, he just fucking one punches, dude.
When he's also standing there and his hands are the size of trash can lids, I was like, okay, I feel like something might be visually, something might be being communicated here.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, right? So before they kind of square up, right? There's like a long camera angle that like just shows I can't even think of the king's name. But
Helm.
like this guy is fucking jacked, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he keeps
Um,
calling him like an old man. Which like
Yeah,
okay, for the
correct.
Lord of the Rings heads like out there too. The last time we like our introduction to this Hall of Kings is Theoden when he's being like poisoned by Wormtongue as well too. So
For
the last
sure.
time we're there, we do see like an old king who can't actually do it anymore. So it's this weird kind of like replay of that as well too. So you're like, okay, what's gonna happen? And no, this guy's here to party.
Yeah, it's almost like how like you always hear like things were just built like stronger or better back in the day and like meant to last, and it's like, dude, fucking 75-year-olds in Rohan, 50
In the
years
second
back,
age.
200 years back, looked fucking insane, dude. That dude's a fucking shit brick house. And then they go even further into it, where he's fucking Yeti trolls in the mountains with his
Yeah.
bare hands, and I'm like, dude, the whole like lore of him that gets to live on, and him just fucking freezing with like his fucking hand in the air, and I'm like, and they're just like, some say he's like still defending, and I'm like,
Oh.
dude, this is like one
When
of
he
the
goes
greatest stories ever. I'm
full
like,
white beard from One Piece.
dude, you just hear the horn in the background, and I'm like, it's like fucking, I'm like, dude, this is like one of the coolest stories.
Well, I think it's interesting because if you watch the Jackson Lord of the Rings, like they are this fantasy setting, but they do have this kind of like they never lean too far into it. And it's cool to see this where it is like kind of an older story, so you get a little bit more permission to be more fudgy with the rules like that and that kind of thing. And like
For sure.
obviously, like we talk about how like Viggo Mortensen in the movie is supposed to be like 87, and like obviously he just doesn't look it, right? And like, but that's not something that's really communicated visually. And where in this you can be like, yeah, no, dude, like the king, he was from the old blood and he was just fucking huge. And like,
Yeah.
and he could just one shot other kings, by the way. Also, my guy Wolf starts losing and just stays losing. That dude's a punk.
Mm-hmm.
Like he sucks.
Nothing
Like,
but
the
that.
whole
Yeah.
time. Like ever since he was a kid, he got rejected by a girl when he was 5, and he got his ass beat, and then he just never got over it. And like now 100 bunch of people are dead. Fuck you, Wolf. You deserve to die.
True villain story for that guy, right?
Yeah.
Honestly.
Oh, you got cut in the eye? I'm sorry, it makes you look cool.
You're making life a lot harder.
Yeah, man.
You
Just
it
because-
could be good. It could be really good for
And
you.
you know what?
dumbass.
You couldn't handle that a girl beat you, and you saw it instead, and you're like, oh well, I gotta marry her instead. That's not right, bro. She just kicked your ass, and just deal with
Yeah,
it.
that's like the like, man, maybe we should break up. I don't know. Maybe we should get married and have a kid.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll fix our problems. It won't.
So what I'm saying is, Wolf's a punk bitch, and
True.
And what's her Hera? Hera rules. Roll Hera. Or
Yeah, she's
as
a
I
beast.
call her, Rohan Merida from Brave.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Brave
Oh,
lit.
I like that. I like that. I see it. I see the vision.
I fucking loved Helm's Sons.
Yeah, and then they get
It's
yeeted.
so funny how like they just get fucking just on the chopping block, dude. I
But-
knew it too as soon as that fight was happening. I'm like, somebody has to die here for this to get progressive, or for this whole story to kind of progress in the way that I think it's going to go. There's really no other choice. One of these two brothers is gonna die.
They get to do
And
a lot
then
of
the
cool,
first one just takes the arrow to the throat.
They get to do a lot of cool shit with their limited time, though. They make good impressions.
Wait, hang
I
on.
would say.
For sure.
After-
Oh yeah.
Taking an arrow to the throat after taking down an elephant with an axe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, dude's a
Dude.
beast.
He's really channeling Matthew
was like,
McConaughey
man, that guy's
from
on top
Reign
of
of
the world.
Fire.
That's honestly, that axe is kind of where my mind went a little bit.
Yeah, no, I thought that. Well, I think like all of the siblings technically get to take one because she eats one in the mouth with the harpoon, and then I think doesn't
Yep.
the other brother like?
I think he takes it out more tactfully with like
right.
I think he cut out the ankles. Is that him?
I was gonna say it was something like that, or was it? It was either that or it was Helm, the dad, that did it, or something. I can't remember.
Maybe
but-
they all took down the first one.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Anyways, that like scene I think was the highlight for the movie for me. The
So
night,
cool.
the night attack scene with the elephants, already set up by the wild one too. That was awesome.
For sure.
Mhm.
And then I thought it,
The octopus tree was
yeah, the
highlight
watcher
for
in the
me.
water.
Shout out. shout out that dude.
Kraken.
Yeah.
I thought I did think it dragged a little bit towards the end. Once they were in Helm's Deep before we got Helms, because that's Helm for Helm's Deep. Yeah, duh. His kind of final stand and everything, and then
For sure.
after that, like I thought it did dip a little bit, but overall, cool final ending battle as well too. That the siege tower was pretty sick.
That was
Yeah,
I
for
agree.
sure. Definitely the biggest one we've ever seen.
Oh yeah,
And it's interesting to see because I'm pretty that one had to have been bigger. At least they made it look way bigger than the one
for Gondor
or the ones that were attacking Minas Tirith.
Yeah.
And so so it looked fucking epic to have that giant bridge coming down to get to the wall. But it's also interesting that the reason I guess you don't see that in Lord of the Rings is because they were like, maybe it doesn't work. So it's
Right,
cool that
right. Yeah, this
they
was in the
did
past.
something. Yeah, it's good that they did something different from Lord of the Rings instead of just kind of being like, oh, well, everyone's always used ladders. Let's just use ladders. They were like, no, let's fucking throw a tower at this thing and make a story about it. And yeah, it was dope.
What else was I gonna say? Oh, I had notes.
I did say earlier the score is dope. It is a Lord of the
Yeah,
Rings
Score is
movie.
dope.
They treated it very much like a Lord of the Rings movie, so that was
Yep.
very great.
this is one of the
And
movies
you,
that we watched where I was like, oh, I'm noticing the score.
mhm.
Yeah.
And really quick, I was gonna say, I know we touched on earlier that this maybe doesn't have the in-depth lore, right? That the three films may have, and even I think you said the Hobbits, which are actually prequels to all of those. But and I don't know all the verbiage, but you do get the gentleman's talking about the rings.
Yeah,
Right? It's the only way I can explain it, but I think you know what I'm talking about. The
the
guys that are
orcs.
like the goblin creatures.
Yeah, the orcs.
Yeah, I've got you. And that's the same species, those of the joints in the actual trilogy, right? Or am I mistaken?
No,
To an
no,
extent, those are technically Orakai, but yes,
Okay,
it's very much of the same. They just make them somewhat different. All of
I got you.
them, yeah,
Oh yeah.
yes.
Speaking of the siege tower, how about homie those up top of it and it just gets yonked onto the other side?
Yeah. I couldn't. I can't say enough good things. I really do like Hera as the main character. I
Yeah.
think they do really good by having a female lead.
Mm,
Especially back in those times. It's hard to, say that they're the more important ones because back then it was just sons rule and your oldest son is your next in line for kingship and your daughter essentially just has to marry off to someone to for the good of the realm
right.
or the kingdom. And so it was cool that they still tied that in a way, and she wears the wedding dress from the old lady that
Story.
died, or
Yeah, yeah.
that is technically haunting Helm's Deep. And so yeah, it was cool how they tied that kind of all together and how she ends up being the hero. I really do love Helm as also one of the main characters. Like I said, that whole story of him in the mountains just fucking shit up with his bare hands is just so epic, from like a kind of like a really giving that this is a story that's going to be told down the line to warriors, and all that other stuff that kind of goes back into that. So yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I feel like I vaguely remember the story when I was reading the books. And it's just something along the lines of like, oh yeah, they were there and like the reason it's called that is because they were able to survive out this crazy winter. And then like Helm kind of had his last stand kind of thing. Um
Yeah,
so it is awesome to give it again that depth and that character to it. It is interesting to because I almost feel like the second movie is the one I know best, but it is interesting to have kind of like the repeat of the story in some ways,
hmm
because it is a siege at the Hornburg or whatever. Um,
yep,
but then we should also talk about the end too. I love that you do get the like resolution of the haunting with the guy coming in Helm's armor and using that to kind of like both
for
A,
sure.
scare and B like you know take out all the extra dudes. All Wolf's
So good.
forces, I should say.
Piece of shit.
To the end, man. To the
Yeah,
end.
that guy really chooses violence.
Yeah, and how about the absolutely just like no honor and dignity
No,
in
he's
the
just
final climactic fight?
just a punk.
Yeah, for sure. Which anybody who's viewing this like sees that coming from a mile away,
Oh yeah.
right? Where like you think they're gonna have this noble fight, and like you're like this guy. That's the last thing this guy's gonna
Yeah.
fucking do.
Well, let's rank it. Let's get out of here. Gone in 60 minutes.
Yes, sir. Welcome back, listeners who skipped over the spoiler segment of the podcast. We're gonna go ahead and throw Lord of the Rings: The War of Rohirrim up upon the Entropy list. For those of you who do not know, the Entropy list is Back Row Banter's official list of all the movies we have reviewed, regardless of genre, regardless of anything else, all in one fantastic list. If you want to see the Entropy list for yourself, you can do so by checking the episode description. Entry 216 on the Entropy list. Number 1 is Dune Part 2, and all the way at the bottom, the worst
Fucking
movie.
crazy.
One of them I've ever seen, but the worst movie we've seen on this podcast is, of course, Borderlands.
You know, as time goes by, though, the more I kind of do agree with Nathaniel a little bit here, but we'll save that for another day.
I don't. I feel fantastic.
Anyways.
Nonetheless, where are we ripping this thing? Who wants to go first?
When's the last
89.
time you watched? Hang on. When's the last time you watched Dune 2? Blake, just curious.
Great question. I want to say it's theater. I don't think I've rewatched it since.
Okay, so what are we talking about here, fellas? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yo, I saw
You
it.
gotta
like
keep the
last
hype
week when
alive.
it came on Netflix.
Word.
I watched it in like 2 parts, but I watched it.
Hey, man.
Yeah, that's fair. I
was
was
feeling a
scrolling on
little-
Netflix the other day and I
Yeah.
saw it and I was like, yeah.
Let me slip you my
hear ya.
4K, Blake. We'll keep that ranking up high. Anyway, anyway, you said 89, Ty?
89, yeah.
89. What a good number.
I do think that it deserves to go a little bit higher than some of the other movies that are above it. But when you throw things like the OG Gladiator, Deadpool still holds its weight. Inside Out 2, Knight's Tale, it gets a little hard. I really wanted to push this thing towards like Suzume, and then The Boy and the Blue Heron, or The Boy and the Heron, is hard to get past from another animated standpoint. That's high quality Studio Ghibli there. And then, you take a look at, honestly, one of my favorite animated movies / anime movies that you could possibly ever run past me. And it's going to be hard for me to pass up anytime it's on TV or anytime I come across it streaming somewhere. And that's Redline. And so I will put this, I do think that, putting this above Terminator might be a little bit blasphemy for some people, but, I think T2 is superior to the Terminator anyways. So, yeah, there are some other bangers below it, but from an animated movie, a movie standpoint, storyline, score, unique animation, all that stuff, I'm going to go right below Redline.
Not a bad spot. I was originally kind of looking in that area as well, but then I opted to go a few spots below it, right? So eventually, where I saw Weathering with You, I was like, okay, I think I do like that more. Then I kind of scrolled down, and eventually I did get to what you guys know is, for lack of a better term, one of my recent magnum opus of animated films, and that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem.
For sure.
And I was like, I don't know if I can put this above that. Scrolling down, Doctor Strange. I
good
do.
that movie's aged.
That movie's awesome. And then their Soul was objectively not bad. The first Moana, pretty good film too. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and squeeze it between Soul and Moana, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and put it. I'm gonna put it below the Blair Witch Project. So we'll go above American Gangster, below the Blair Witch Project. Blair Witch Project just monumental in the horror genres. Did a lot to reinvent film, set new precedents in horror, right? So I'm gonna try to give it some credit.
So 118.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. I also saw Blair Witch, and I was like, I do like that movie a lot. All right, I'll take that, Blake. Nathaniel, do you have your spot yet?
Yep. I'm going to be at 108, below The Descent, above Deadpool and Wolverine. Everything Ty said is true, but I feel like a little bit like I like those other movies a little bit better. Challengers, Rain of Fire, Blade, First Blade, Terminator, The Descent. But I like this
The
way
decent.
more than Deadpool and Wolverine. Malignant's fun, but I'm a bigger fan of Lord of the Rings before I was a horror fan. So same with Barbarian. Same with Ninja Turtles. I'm a bigger Lord of the Rings fan than I ever will be of Ninja Turtles. And then I think the smokes like Doctor Strange, King of the Planet. I think Soul's great. Creed, what is that, 3? That's pretty great too.
The Thread.
But, yeah, that's where I am. 108. Above Deadpool and Wolverine, below The Descent.
Okay.
All right. I am gonna go 131 below Gladiator 2, above The Conjuring 2.
Oh my god, Gladiator, dude, you're crazy.
Yeah, I think that's a bit
I
of
mean,
a wild take.
actually, you know what? You're right. You're right. Man, let me move this up a couple. Let me
Gladiator.
put it above.
Do you think they do Glad 3-ater? Almost
I
for
mean,
the pun, you have
this
to,
thing's
right?
this
You know
thing's
what?
got to be better than Twisters, right, fellas? Like, what are we?
Yeah, this is better than Twister
Okay,
for sure.
you guys are right. All right, I appreciate your honesty.
Man, I think it's better than Maxine. Objectively,
Well,
Maxine's
that's where I'm actually
definitely
looking at.
greatest in there.
So okay, I'll go 121 then. All right, because I don't want to
Wow.
put above Fall Guy. I really like Fall Guy,
Okay.
so I'll do 121.
I'll take
That's
9
fair.
spots. I'm cool with it.
That does give us an even rating of 109, meaning we tie break with Malignant.
Ooh.
Above.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll go above. I mean, that's close to my rating. I'll go above. That means it's
too
below
above.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
Fate of the world
God
is in your
fucking
hands right
damn
now,
it.
Adam.
I was gonna say I know which way Blake's gonna go. So.
I'm kind of leaning below as well, low key.
Ugh.
All right, well, I guess
So-
we have to go to a
Brother,
IMDb tiebreak.
This is like a 6.9 or something like that.
Ooh,
Malignant's got to be. Malignant
Lord
might
of the
be a 5.
Rings,
I was
The
gonna
War of
say,
Rohirrim.
Malignant's pretty
6.4.
Yeah.
Malignant
6.3.
6.2. So War of Rohirrim.
Okay, it's harder than I thought. I thought Malignant would be a 5er, but then I was going to be
was-
like, that may be one of the better 5 to rank
Slightly
IMDb movies of all
positive.
time.
6 point something.
Yeah.
6.2 is low.
Oh, this is a 6.4. It's close.
Yeah. All right, with Lord of the Rings, War of Rohirrim will
Let's
take it at
go.
109, and that is below Deadpool and Wolverine, above
That
Malignant. A
hurts my
decent
heart,
spot, I
but
would say.
okay.
What does that? It's above.
Dude,
That's
Deadpool
below
and Wolverine was
Deadpool and
funny, and I had a
Wolverine.
great time watching
I don't
that
think
in
it's that bad.
theaters.
I don't think it's that bad. I think Deadpool and Wolverine's fine. I'm just saying Lord of the Rings is better.
I'm never watching. Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to go back and watch that third Deadpool movie, guys. I'm not going to lie.
Maybe not, but you know what? I had a great theater experience, and if you guys feel
That's
that
true.
strongly
I've
about it,
only watched
you guys
it
feel that
twice
strongly about it,
because-
you can change it. All right.
Yeah, I've only
can
seen it
change
already.
it. I
I've
feel
only seen it
scolded
already because Leah didn't see it with me, and she was like, "Yeah, we can turn it on." So I was like, "All right, that's fine." So
Okay. Is that thing streaming somewhere? It
Yeah.
seems like it would be.
I don't know. I think Adam's my dad now.
Maybe Disney Plus.
it's on. Yeah, it's on Disney
Sure. Yeah.
because we just watched it not too long ago.
Because it's Marvel.
All right, let's get out of here,
So,
boys.
all right,
All
well,
right.
it's 11:30, so
Yeah. 109. That's it for this week's review. Next week's review. Are we just gonna watch Gone Girl? We never settled that debate, but I think that was kind of the loose plan.
Cool.
if we decide to change it, we'll let post-pod Adam know.
Oh, son of a bitch. All right.
Yeah. So I think next week, let's just stick with Gone Girl. The following week is my B-Day pick, and I think
Yes,
I
it
know what I'm
is.
going to go with, fellas.
Hell yeah.
You want to give us
Good.
any insight now, or are you gonna make us
Not
wait?
live. Not live. Don't make more work for
Oh.
post-pod Adam, fellas. That's not nice. It's 11:30.
Okay. Yeah. We'll save it. Just know it.
It's not like it's
Nathaniel
gonna
was
go
on
up
something when he was
tonight.
doing
It's not.
2000 monster flicks.
I'm sorry.
Right?
What'd you say,
He's like, I
Blake?
just want to. When Nathaniel was on to something, said he wanted to do 2000 just monster flicks.
Oh yeah.
And I thought of one. I'm sure Adam hasn't seen it. I'm positive Nathaniel and Tyler have seen this though for sure.
All right, we'll find out. I'm ready.
Yep, we'll chat about it next week.
All right. All right. All right. Gone Girl is gonna be our review for next week. Continuing picking up, I should say, our Fincher binge that I don't know how it started, but we're here and I'm not mad about it.
The Fincher Pincher.
Sure.
There you go, the Fincher binge. That is currently streaming on Hulu, from what I'm seeing here. So you can catch Gone Girl there, and then you can catch us next week for our review. We're gonna get on out of here. Know what we're watching this week. It's as we already stated, 11:30 on a Thursday. Make sure you share the podcast, share with a friend, family member. Maybe you're trapped inside some castle walls for a very long and cold winter, and you need something to pass the time. Put on Back Row Banter. And while you're doing that, follow us on Twitter at Banter Row, on Instagram at Back Row Banter Pod, and our YouTube is just Back Row Banter. Please go subscribe to us there, even if it is not your primary place of listening. And then our email, if you want to send us one of those, is backrowbanterpod@gmail.com. BlakeHolder, where can people find you at, my man?
Letterboxd, BlakeHolder, be on there, log some things, random amount of 5 stars, putting some comments down when possible. PlayStation, Xbox, Mr. Water Coolers.
Speaking of PlayStation.
And, yeah, right. That's funny. I didn't think it was that loud. And yeah, that's where I'm at. We'll pass it to Nathaniel.
You can find me on Blue Sky. I'm out there on the Blue Skies. I think that's Nathaniel Gingrich at Blue Sky or whatever it is.
I'm gonna
And
find you right now.
Letterboxd, Ennis Gingrich. Tyler.
You can find me on Instagram, Letterboxd, and X, all Tyler Vidalis, Vidales, Adam.
Find me on Twitter at H24 and on Letterboxd at H. That's AYYSH. I'm trying to do more Letterboxd. I say this a lot, and I've been pretty good about it the last year, but I'm gonna try to be even better. And who knows, maybe I'll start putting some reviews down on these movies. But yeah, go follow me there. I'm gonna try to do more Letterboxd things this year. So anyway, that's it for our review here. Thank you all for listening, especially if you made it this far into the episode. You're my favorite type of listener, and we really do appreciate it. Join us for our review of Gone Girl next week. We'll be RB.
America. Ready for another lesson.
I decided one of my New Year's resolutions is book related.
Y'all.
I wanna consume more literature.
I like it. Have you made some decisions?
On what I'm reading?
Y'all.
No.
Fair enough.
I know. I'm waiting to see what you give me.
For sure.
And then go from there. And then obviously I'll take recommendations. Obviously, fantasy, sci-fi, horror are all in the realm of possibilities. I did find my old Wheel of Time book, The World Eye, the first one.
Sure.
I'm like, do I do that? And then I kind of looked at it and I was like, maybe like an 800-page book isn't the place to start your
just
goal
kick
at.
off.
Yeah, like let's maybe start something a little bit more realistic and
I like
and
having
actually-
the Goodreads app too. Like, because that's where you like track it.
Sure.
And so you're just like, I am reading this. I am on page whatever. And then it'll be like, hey, you're 15% done. And like, I do find myself being like, oh, I want to make the percentage go higher. I want 100% this book.
little game for yourself.
Yeah. And then they have like a little 20, have like a set your reading challenge for the year kind of thing.
Nice. Do they have recommendations on there too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a Letterboxd but for books.
Oh, okay. Bet.
So like you'll like go on there and it'll have recommends and you can like follow your friends and see what they're reading and shit and like it'll
What's
like update you. Goodreads.
Good Eats.
Not right, but close.
It used to be like one of my favorite shows on the Food Network channel. Good Eats with Alan Brown.
It's definitely Amazon's app, so like it'll like try and default you to Kindle and shit, but
Mm.
or not like Kindle, but like that's
Good reads, book
it'll
reviews.